Namaho Krishna Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Tatsami Bhute Namini Namaho Namaste Saraswati Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna
Caitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All glories to Lord Caitanya, whose form is eternal and who is dear to Lord Nityananda. All glories to He who is the life, treasure of all the Vaishnavas. O Lord, please cast your glance of mercy on all the conditioned souls. Please deliver them. He who is the King of Vaikuntha manifested the form of the crest jewel of teachers and lived in Navadvip. The four directions were filled with materialists and offenders. These wicked people never heard the word bhakti yoga or devotional service. Seeing everyone intent on tasting material illusion, the devotees became very unhappy at heart. And when they saw that Nimai Pandit had accepted the role of a teacher of grammar, the unhappiness of the devotees increased still further. Those in Navadvip who were wicked always mocked the Vaishnavas, and the devotees were forced to tolerate their insults. In Nimai Pandit's heart grew the desire to begin the Sankirtan movement and reveal his actual identity as the Supreme Lord. Thus the Lord thought, now I will go to Gaya. In this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, known as Nimai Pandit, expressed his desire to visit the land of Gaya. Thus, after performing the Shraddha ritual for his deceased father, Jagannath Mishra, Lord Chaitanya took permission from his mother, and with a happy heart he began his journey accompanied by many students.
A little slower.
Making every village and country into a holy place with the touch of his feet, the Lord began walking. Along the way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his students discussed religion and tasted the nectar of joking words. After several days, the Lord came to Mandara hill. There upon the hill, he saw the deity of Madhusudana, and then wandered upon the hillside. After traveling for several days, he who was the king of Vaikuntha manifested a fever as if he were an ordinary human being. The Lord's students became struck with fear. Stopping their journey, the students tried many remedies, but the fever would not diminish, for its presence was the Lord's desire. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then prescribed his own medicine, saying, all my troubles will be cut to pieces when I drink the water that has washed a Brahmana's feet. To teach the glories of drinking the water that has washed a Brahmana's feet, the Lord personally drank that water, and at that moment the fever left and he became cured. Thus the Lord, who is known as Bhaktavatsala, the lover of his devotees, taught the importance of respecting and serving the Lord's devotees. With his fever destroyed, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued traveling until he reached Gaya. Upon entering that city, which is the king of all holy places, the Lord bathed and performed Shastrik rituals. He then folded his hands and offered obeisances to the king of holy places. The Lord first went to Brahmakunda and bathed. He then properly worshipped the Pitas and demigods, and then hurried through a chakra-decorated temple to see the Vishnupad, the Lord's lotus footprints. There, the Brahmanas sat in a circle around the Lord's garland-covered footprints, which were being worshipped with fragrances, flowers, incense, lamps, garments, and ornaments. The lotus feet were surrounded by Brahmanas who were describing the Lord's glories. They said, Lord Shiva, the master of Varanasi, holds these feet close to his heart. These feet are the life and soul of Goddess Lakshmi. The Lord placed his feet on Bali Maharaj's head. O fortunate people, please gaze upon the Lord's feet. Yamaraj has no power over a person who meditates on them for even a moment. The masters of yoga find these feet very difficult to attain. O fortunate people, please gaze at the Lord's feet, for from those feet the Ganga was manifested. The Lord's devotees, his servants, never renounce these feet and always keep them in their hearts. These very dear feet rest on the bed of Anantashesha. O fortunate people, please gaze at the Lord's lotus feet. By hearing the glories of the Lord's feet from the mouth of the Brahmanas, Lord Caitanya entered great transcendental bliss, and a stream of tears flowed from his 2 lotus eyes. He trembled, and the hairs of his body stood erect. An endless Ganga of tears flowed from his eyes. Thus, for the welfare of all the worlds, Lord Caitanya now began to manifest Prema Bhakti, loving devotional service. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was experiencing ecstasy due to hearing the glories of the Lord's lotus feet, by divine arrangement and by Lord Chaitanya's own wish, at that moment Ishvara Puri arrived. Seeing Ishvara Puri, Lord Chaitanya at once bowed down with great respect. And the Lord and Ishvara Puri then very happily embraced. Filled with the happiness of spiritual love, they sprinkled each other's bodies with tears of love. The Lord said, "My pilgrimage to Gaya is now fruitful, for now I have seen your feet. By offering oblations at this holy place of Gaya, a person delivers one of his ancestors. However, simply by seeing you at once, he frees many millions of his ancestors from all material bondage. Therefore, no holy place is equal to you. Your presence brings the greatest auspiciousness to the holy places. O Shripad Ishvara Puri, please lift me from this world of birth and death. I offer my body to you. The only gift I wish from you in return is that you give me the nectar of Lord Krishna's lotus feet." Then Ishvara Puri said, "Please listen, O Pandit. You are an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This I know for certain. Who but an incarnation of the Supreme Lord could possess the great learning that you possess? Who but an incarnation of the Lord can act as you act? Last night I saw an auspicious dream. Now I have directly attained the fruit of that dream. O Pandit, I tell you the truth. By seeing you at every moment, I am experiencing transcendental bliss. Since the time I first saw you in Nadia, I will tell you the truth. Nothing else stays in my heart. By seeing you, I attain the happiness of seeing Lord Krishna himself. Hearing Ishvara Puri's sweet words, the Lord smiled and said, "Now I am very fortunate."
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Everyone can
Krishna,
chant and call out for the
Krishna,
Lord
Krishna,
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Everyone, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Everyone.
after taking permission from Ishvara Puri, Lord Caitanya left to perform the Shraddha ceremony. Going to Falgu Tirtha, he offered Pinda in the sand. Then he went to Preta Gaya, which was on a hilltop. After offering Shraddha at Preta Gaya, Lord Caitanya satisfied the Brahmanas by offering them sweet words as dakshin. After thus pleasing and delivering his ancestors, the Lord happily went to Dakshina Manasa and then to Ramagaya and offered Shraddha to the incarnation Ramachandra. He then went to Yudhishthira Gaya and offered Pinda to King Yudhishthira. In this way the Lord happily offered Shraddha. After performing the Shraddha ceremony, and after offering Pinda into the water, the Gaya Brahmanas, who were greedy for dakshin, approached the Lord. Seeing them, Lord Caitanya smiled and cut the bonds that tied them to the material world. Lord Caitanya, who is Lord Hari himself, then offered Pinda at Uttara Manasa. Following that, he went to Bhimagaya, Shivagaya, Brahmagaya, and many other places. Performing all the rituals, he went to the 16 Gayas, and at each the Lord made offerings. Then, after bathing in Brahma Kund, Lord Caitanya offered Pinda at Gaya Sira, and in this way he completed the performance of Shraddha for the benefit of all of his ancestors. Offering splendid garlands and sandalwood paste with his own graceful hands, Lord Caitanya then happily worshipped Lord Vishnu's footprints. Thus, after having offered Shraddha at all of these places, and after having conversed with all of the Brahmanas, the Lord returned to his own residence. After having rested for some moments, he sat down to cook. Suddenly, as soon as his cooking had been completed, Ishvara Puri arrived. Overcome with love, Ishvara Puri again and again chanted the holy name of Lord Krishna. Walking as if he were intoxicated, he approached the Lord, who immediately stopped cooking, respectfully bowed down, and offered Ishvara Puri a seat. Laughing, Ishvara Puri said, "Oh Pandit, you've just completed cooking. I have come just at the right time." To this the Lord replied, "Today I am fortunate, O saintly one. Please accept this meal that I have just cooked." Laughing, Ishvara Puri said, "What will you eat?" The Lord replied, "Don't worry, I will cook again." Ishvara Puri said, "Why should you cook again? Just divide the food that you have just cooked into 2 parts. Laughing, the Lord said, "If you will, please eat everything. In half a moment, I will cook more food. Please don't hesitate. Kindly accept the alms that I offer." Thus the Lord offered his own food to Ishvara Puri. With his own graceful hand, the Lord served Ishvara Puri, and filled with transcendental bliss, Ishvara Puri ate. And at that moment, unobserved by anyone, Goddess Lakshmi hurried there and cooked for the Lord. And thus, after offering a meal to Ishvara Puri, Lord Caitanya himself happily ate. In this way, Lord Caitanya was merciful to Ishvara Puri, whose thoughts were always fixed upon Krishna and never thinking of anyone else. Anyone who hears this account of the Lord offering a meal to Ishvara Puri attains the great treasure of pure love for Krishna. With his own graceful hand, the Lord then anointed Ishvara Puri's limbs with splendid fragrances and said, "What I came to do in Gaya is now done, for I have seen Ishvara Puri." Who has the power to describe how much the Lord was pleased with Ishvara Puri? Lord Caitanya, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, personally saw Ishvara Puri's birthplace and said, "I offer my respectful obeisances to Kumar Hatta, the village where Sri Ishvara Puri descended to this world." When he visited that place, Lord Caitanya shed many tears. There, he said no word other than Ishvara Puri. At that place, the Lord picked up some earth, placed it in a bag, and tied that bag to his outer garment, saying, "This earth is from the birthplace of Ishvara Puri. It is my wealth. It is my life breath. It keeps me alive." In this way, the all-powerful Lord, Lord Caitanya, expressed his love for Ishvara Puri and expanded his glories.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Everyone can.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama,
One day, in a secluded place, Lord Caitanya began speaking sweet words. While speaking sweet words, told Ishvarapuri his desire for mantra diksha, or spiritual initiation. To that request, Ishvarapuri replied, "Why do you ask me for mantra initiation? It is I who should surrender my life to you." Then, in that place, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, who is the Shiksha Guru, the instructing spiritual master of everyone, accepted initiation into chanting the 10-syllable mantra. After receiving Diksha, Lord Caitanya circumambulated Ishvarapuri, saying, "Now I give my body to you. Please cast your glance of mercy upon me, so I may be flooded by an ocean of pure love for Lord Krishna." Hearing these words, Ishvarapuri embraced the Lord and held him to his chest. The tears of love flowing from both their eyes drenched their bodies. Agitated with love, they could not remain peaceful. Thus, after giving his mercy to Ishvarapuri, Lord Caitanya, who is Lord Hari with a fair complexion, remained in Gaya for some days. Now the time was approaching for the Lord to reveal his true self. For after he accepted initiation, the glory of his devotional love grew greater and greater day by day. One day, Lord Caitanya sat down in a secluded place to meditate on the mantra for his worshipable deity. Emerging from the bliss of meditation, the Lord wept and cried out, "Oh Krishna! Oh my dear Krishna! Oh Lord of my life! Oh Lord Hari! Robbing my life from me, in what direction have you fled? In what direction shall I go to find you?" Speaking these words, Lord Caitanya began to weep. Plunged in the nectar of Prema Bhakti Ras, or loving devotion to Krishna, he who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself covered each of his limbs with dust. The Lord screamed in agony, "Dear Father Krishna, leaving me, where have you gone?" The same Lord who was once grave and peaceful now became unsteady and agitated with spiritual love. He rolled about on the ground, he wept, he floated in a nectar ocean of love and separation, which in fact was separation from himself. After some moments, his students came and tried to bring him back to his natural state. The Lord declared, "You all go home. I will not return to the material world. I will not return home, but instead will go to see Mathura. And there I will meet Krishna Chandra, the master of my life." The students tried in various ways to bring the Lord back to his senses. Gathering around, in different ways they tried to pacify him. He, who is the king of Vaikuntha, was now plunged in the nectar of pure devotion. His heart was not peaceful and steady, and he remained like that for some days. Overcome with love, and not speaking to anyone. At the end of the night, the Lord left for Mathura, continuously calling out, "O Krishna! O my Father, where will I find you?" After traveling a certain distance, he heard a divine voice. The voice said, "O jewel of the Brahmanas, at this time you should not go to Mathura. When the time comes for you to visit Mathura, then you can go. For now, you should return to your home in Navadvip. You are the king of Vaikuntha. Accompanied by your associates, you have descended to the earth to deliver the people. It is now time for you to fill the limitless universe with the chanting of the holy names. You will freely distribute the great treasure of pure love of God to the people of the world. You have descended to give to the entire world the same nectar of spiritual love that makes Brahma, Shiva, Sanakumara, and the host of others wild with bliss. Please understand this. We, your servants, desire to tell this to you. Therefore we speak this before you. You are the Creator, you are the Supreme Lord. What you desire, no one can jump over. Therefore, O Supreme Lord, please return to your home. After some delay, eventually you will go and see Mathura." Hearing this voice from the sky, Lord Caitanya, accompanied by his students, returned to Navadvip. And thus the Lord entered the place of his advent with a happy heart. Day by day, his feelings of love for Lord Krishna, his prema bhakti grew stronger and stronger. Anyone who hears of the Lord's journey to Gaya will in his heart meet Lord Caitanya. Anyone who hears about Lord Krishna will attain Lord Krishna's association and will never leave it.
Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Of Nadia became filled with the news of Lord Chaitanya's return from Gaya, and the Lord's kinsmen ran to accompany him home. Some walked ahead, and others alongside him, and others behind. The Lord spoke appropriately with everyone, and gazing at Lord Chaitanya, everyone was joyful. They walked ahead of him and proudly brought him to his home. To all he saw, Lord Chaitanya described his pilgrimage, saying, "It is only by all of your blessings that I, after seeing the land of Gaya, have returned without any trouble." The Lord was extremely humble as he spoke, and seeing the Lord's humility, everyone became pleased. Some placed their hands on the Lord's head and declared, "May you live long," while others, placing their hands on the Lord's different limbs, chanted mantras, and others, placing their hands on the Lord's chest, gave the blessing, "May Lord Krishna, who delights Goddess Shitala, be merciful to you." While all of this was occurring, Joyful and fortunate Mother Sachi gazed at her son and remained unaware of anything but him. Bliss arose amongst the kinsmen of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's wife. Vishnu Priya Devi, who was Lakshmi Ji herself, gazed at her husband's face and felt all her sufferings run far away. All the Vaishnavas of Nadia became happy to hear the news of the Lord's return, and they immediately came to see him. Then, after humbly speaking with everyone and taking their permission, he retired to his own room, taking with him 2 or 4 Vaishnavas. He sat down and he began to speak confidentially. The Lord said, "O my friends, please listen to what I say. When I first entered Gaya, I at once heard thousands and thousands of brahmanas who were all chanting auspicious Vedic hymns. Someone then said to me, 'Look, this place has been made sacred by the water that washed Lord Vishnu's feet. In ancient times, Krishna came to Gaya. Stopping in this place, he washed his feet. Touching the water from the Lord's feet, the Ganga has become glorious. Lord Shiva holds this water on his head. This place has become holy by the power of the water that washed the Lord's feet. And that is why this place is known as Padudaka Tirtha, or the place made holy by the water that washed the Lord's feet. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu spoke the name of the place that had become sacred due to the touch of the Lord's feet, tears began to incessantly pour from his beautiful eyes. He then became very restless and repeated the name, Krishna, 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 Krishna. He wept again and again. He sighed deeply, and the hairs of his body stood erect. The Lord could not stay still and began to violently tremble. Shiman Pandit and the other devotees gazed at the Lord as he shed wonderful tears of love for Lord Krishna. Struck with wonder, everyone thought in his heart, I had never seen anything like this. Lord Krishna has been merciful to me to allow me to see these ecstatic symptoms. After some time, after some moments, the Lord returned to external consciousness. And again he began to speak. My friends, please return to your homes. But return here tomorrow, and in a secluded place, I will describe to you my unhappiness. Tomorrow, hurry to Suklambar Brahmachari's house and bring Sadashiva with you. Seeing Lord Chaitanya's wonderful love for Krishna, Sriman Pandit and the other Vaishnavas became filled with joy. Thus the Lord's friends left, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained alone in his room. From this time onward, Lord Chaitanya became always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and mostly in a mood of separation. Mother Sachi had no power to understand her son's activities, but whenever she saw her son, she was very happy. Mother Sachi would look, and her son would weep and call out, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna." Her entire house would become flood of tears. Where is Krishna? Oh, where is Krishna? Overcome with love, the Lord called out these words over and over, again and again. Mother Sachi did not know why her son had changed, and all she could do was fold her hands and take shelter of Lord Krishna. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was beginning to reveal his true nature. Now the limitless universes became joyful. On the following day at dawn, the devotees got dressed and happily went to pick flowers. Srivas Thakur's house had a jasmine vine that was actually a kalpalata, or a vine that had descended from the spiritual world. The Vaishnavas had no power to empty that vine of flowers. Regardless of how many flowers were picked, the same number remained on that vine. Each morning as the sun would rise, the Vaishnavas, Gadadhar, Gopinath, Ramai, and Srivas would gather together and talk about Krishna as they picked flowers for their daily worship. That morning, Sriman Pandit, whose smile was exceedingly broad, also came. They all turned to him and said, "We can see that you are wearing a special smile today. What is the meaning?" And to this, Sriman Pandit replied, "Yes, indeed, it does have a cause." "Tell us," said the devotees, and Sriman Pandit replied, "Please hear the wonderful cause. Nimai Pandit has become a great Vaishnava. Hearing that he had safely returned from Gaya, I went in the evening to speak with him. But his words were only about renunciation of the world, and he did not display even one drop of pride or arrogance. In a secluded place, he told me about the wonders he had seen in the holy place of Gaya. And he also spoke about Lord Krishna. When he heard the name of the holy place, of the Lord's lotus footprints, Vishnupad, he filled the house with the tears from his eyes. Each of his limbs trembled. The hair upon them stood erect, and when he spoke the words, "Oh Krishna," he fell to the ground with no sign of life present in any of his limbs. He was completely unconscious. And then, after some moments, he regained external vision. It was a great wonder. And after that, he called out, "Krishna, Krishna, Krishna," and he wept, and the tears appeared like the flowing of the Ganga. The devotion that I saw him manifest was unlike the devotion of any human being. And when he regained external consciousness, he told everyone, "Tomorrow you should all come to Suklambal's house." He said, "Bring Sadashiva and Murali Pandit, and I will tell you all of my sufferings." Thus, said Sriman Pandit, "I have told you all the auspicious news that has caused my happiness." Hearing Sriman Pandit's words, the devotees loudly and joyfully called out, "Hari, Hari, 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 Hari!" And generous-hearted Shrivas declared, "May Lord Krishna increase the numbers of our Vaishnava family." And thus, after finishing gathering flowers, the happy devotees returned to their homes and commenced the worship of their deity.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Dham Ho, Hare
Later in the day, Sriman Pandit and others went to Sukumbara Brahmachari's house, which was right near the Ganga bank. Sadashiva, Murari, and others, who were all followers of the path of Prema Bhakti, pure love for Lord Krishna. They also came. Gadadhar Pandit also hurried to Sukumbara's house. He was thinking, I will go and hide and hear what Nimai Pandit says about Lord Krishna. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the jewel of all Brahmanas, arrived, and he sat with these Vaishnavas, and they all happily began speaking together. Soon, however, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu recited a verse. I found my Lord, but then he disappeared. In what direction did he go? And speaking these words, the Lord became paralyzed, and he fell down near one of the pillars of the house. He embraced the pillar, and the Lord said, Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? He threw his disheveled hair to the ground, and all the devotees also fell down, and overcome with ecstatic love when the Lord said, Oh Krishna! While hiding in Sukumbara's house, Gadadhar observed all of this, and he fell unconscious. No longer did he know who he was, where he was, or the difference between himself and others. Overwhelmed by the bliss of pure love for Krishna, everyone in the house, all the devotees, fell down unconscious. Nearby, the goddess Ganga became surprised. She smiled and began to laugh. After some moments, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu manifested external consciousness. He began to weep again and again as he called out, Krishna, Krishna, oh Krishna, my Lord, in what direction did you go? Again and again, saying these words, he fell to the ground, overcome with love for Krishna. Sachi's son wept, and the devotees around him in the four directions also wept. Even after falling violently to the ground many times, the Lord's graceful limbs showed no sign of being hurt, and overcome with love for Krishna, who was actually his very self, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu fully lost awareness of external events. The devotees began kirtan, and the tears from their weeping filled Sukumbara's house with spiritual love. Then Sri Caitanya became still for a moment. He sat down, yet a flood of tears continued to flow from him. The Lord asked, Who is in this house? Someone is here? And Sukumbara Brahmachari replied, Your Gadadhar is here. Lord Chaitanya then looked up, and he saw Gadadhar Pandit weeping with his head in his hands, And being pleased upon seeing Gadadhar, he said, Gadadhar, you are a great saint. Since your childhood, you have always been wrapped in meditation on Krishna and trying to taste what is worthless. I, on the other hand, have wasted my life. But sadly, finally, I have found a priceless treasure. But then, by the fault of my past impious deeds, my treasure has fled from my sight. Speaking these words, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu again fell to the ground. That transcendental body, which is meant to be worshipped by all, now rolled about in the dust. Again and again, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu regained external consciousness, and again he would fall to the ground, and the only words he spoke with his graceful mouth was Krishna, 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 Krishna. The Lord one by one approached everyone. He held on to them. He wept and he asked, Where is Krishna? Oh, my brothers, please tell me at once. But no words of reply could come from the devotees' mouths. The Lord said, Please end my suffering. Take me to the son of Nanda Maharaj. He rolled on the ground, and his hair became unbound after he spoke these words. He sighed and wept again and again. And in the house of Suklambara, one day passed in ecstasy, as if it were a moment. Gadadhar, Sadashiva, Sriman Pandit, Sukumbhar, and the others were filled with wonder. Whoever saw the Lord's spiritual love, they became speechless. The other Vaishnavas and told them everything from beginning to end. And the other great devotees too began to weep upon hearing all of this, and they all called out loudly, Hari! 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 Except they called it out loudly with great enthusiasm. Hari! Hari! Everyone who heard of this unprecedented spiritual love became filled with wonder. And someone said, perhaps when he was in Gaya, he saw the Supreme Lord. And someone else said, Nimai Pandit is very good. He has the power to break the heads of the atheists and offenders. And someone else said, he will reveal secret truths about Krishna. Of this, I have no doubt. I know it must be true. And someone else said, perhaps by associating with Sri Ishvara Puri, he saw Lord Krishna himself in Gaya. In these ways, the devotees happily spoke their opinions and happily chanted the holy names of the Lord. Some sang, some danced, some wept. In this way, the devotees' hearts became filled with joy. Thus, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu had begun tasting the nectar of his own spiritual love, and thus, at the same time, he had begun the Sankirtan movement. Vrindavan Das Thakur, he said, By Lord Nityananda's mercy, I write these words about Lord Caitanya. By myself, I do not have the power to write them down. As a puppet master makes a wooden puppet dance, so Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu make me speak. I do not know where is the beginning and where is the end of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. I describe the Lord's glories as far as I know them. As a bird cannot reach the end of the sky, there is no end to describing Mahaprabhu's glory. I describe them as far as the Lord's mercy awards me power. I offer my respectful obeisances to the feet of all the Vaishnavas. I pray that I may never offend them. A person who wishes to cross beyond the material world and then dive into the ocean of pure devotional service should worship the feet of Nityananda Chandra. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is my Lord and Master. In my heart, I always keep great faith in Him. O Lord Nityananda, O life of Sri Caitanya, all glory to you. I pray that your feet may always be my shelter. As I sing the glory of Sri Caitanya, I also sing your glory. I pray that I may have your association birth after birth. Anyone who hears these descriptions of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu will one day meet Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And Vrindavan Das Thakur now ends this chapter of his Chaitanya Bhagavat by saying, the two moons, Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, are my life and soul. And I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Everyone. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Govinda, Jai Sachidanand, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Hare Ram, Hare Hare Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Ishivara Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Varakunda Giri Govardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Jai Navadi Mayapur Jai Sanghavai Jai Janavamai ki Jai Bhakti Devi ki Jai Tulasi Devi ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Shri Sachidananda Rama Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki Jai Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai all glories to your Sambha Devotees. All glories to your Sambha Devotees.
Before you all leave, I want to